This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I have a legendary entrepreneur, Joel Myers. He is the founder of, that's right, AccuWeather, and has been recognized and admired for years and years with creating what is the most accurate way of receiving tomorrow or the future in weather. Joel, welcome to the Playbook.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
You know, one of the reasons I wanted you here is I jokingly tell people all the time, if you can tell me the future, if you can tell me about tomorrow, I can make billions of dollars. And we were talking before the show, and I think you might be the first person I ever talked to that I believe can tell me the future. How is it that, way back when that you came up with, number one, the idea of AccuWeather, but also have been able to live up to the name?
Well, I first got interested in snow when I was 3 years old. When I was 7, my grandmother gave me a diary, and I started recording the days when it snowed. And by the time I was 11, I knew I wanted to be a meteorologist, but also was entrepreneurial as a kid, always looking for a way to make some money. And so I thought about combining my love of weather and weather forecasting with a business, because my father had showed me an article about somebody who was trying to do that in the Boston area. And so from that point on, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to college to study meteorology. I grew up in Philadelphia. Penn State was the state university. They had a meteorological program. So I couldn't afford really to go anywhere else. Turned out they had the best meteorological program in the world. So talk about luck and being blessed. So I went to Penn State. I got a bachelor's, master's, and PhD there. I got a great mentorship and a lot of ideas, and taught for 21 years. And I started AccuWeather as a second-year graduate student at Penn State.
In 1962, you founded AccuWeather while you were teaching at Penn State. And, back then it was not as accessible. I just was talking to one of my younger employees, and he said, what was college like when you were in college? I was talking about they have entrepreneur programs now, they have sports management programs. I said, when I really went to college, it was doctor, lawyer, or failure, more professionally based. But here, it's so interesting that, the energy of you being attracted to weather and such a young age, but literally in your backyard is the best program in the world. How did Penn State end up having that program? Because it doesn't seem as if, somehow this is the hub of weather in Pennsylvania.
Well, obviously we get our share of weather, but the fact is that Penn State has a lot of number one ranked programs, and they hired a German meteorological professor in the 1930s. So that's when they established the program. And by the time I arrived in 1957, it was very well established. And they had some of the top professors in the country, if not the world, and they continued to add to that. As far as mentorship and entrepreneurism, Dr. Charles Hosler, my thesis advisor and a professor, later became head of the department, encouraged me and encouraged entrepreneurship and mentorship. And Penn State has done that for a long time. It's interesting. I was just on a interactive program a couple of days ago with some top experts in education, and it came up again that the place that companies prefer to hire graduates from is Penn State. There's been articles in the Wall Street Journal. They make the best employees because it's not only the coursework, but it's the mentorship, 1,300 activities and clubs and things you can participate in. We're somewhat isolated from the city. So it's a great environment. That's why Penn State, I think, has such a loyalty and such a passionate fan base and so on. It's part of it. So, of course, I've been a spokesman for Penn State, and I couldn't have started AccuWeather or done anything I've done in life without having all the whole experiences I had here. So still live in State College. AccuWeather is headquartered in State College, PA, where Penn State University is located. I've served on the board of the university for 39 years. So I've been very fortunate what Penn State gave to me and been able to give back to the university to a small degree of what they gave me.
One of my favorite things, I went to Occidental College out on the West Coast, and one of my favorite things, I played football, was we had the reverse uniforms of Penn State. We were all black helmets, no names on the back, the same type of attitude that they had at Penn State. Now, one of the reasons that I think is so interesting is so early on, you took something commonplace like the weather, and you learned how to commercialize it. And why I think that's so important is now today, it may seem trivial, but things are commercialized like you commercialize the weather. You know, they have, you know, the pimple popper lady, and she has millions of followers and monetizes the ability to pop pimples. That might sound silly, but without, you know, the incredible vision that you had, because I really want to stress, you know, as entrepreneurs look at things, that it wasn't so commonplace back when you started to commercialize the weather. That, you know, there are plenty of people that were laughing at you, scoffing at you, and making fun of you when you were talking about being able to commercialize the weather, the same way maybe that I jest about commercializing pimple popping, but yet it is a business. You know, what were some of the biggest challenges to re-engineer the vision or to create the learning curve that you have over the 60 years, you know, to get people to understand that the weather actually has a real commercial purpose, and that millions, if not billions of people really need the accurate weather in instant real time?
Well, it's a great question. And certainly I had tremendous headwinds along the way. People did think I was crazy. The government gives forecasts away for free. Why should I pay you? Well, I'm more accurate. Well, come on. How can you as one person be more accurate than a government agency with 5,000 employees? Well, because I'm going to tailor it to your ski area and so on and so forth. I had to give free trials. I called 25,000 prospects before I had 100 paying customers. I had 24,900 rejections. And so clearly I was motivated. I wouldn't take no for an answer. I called some prospects back a dozen times and just kept at it and kept proving a track record, which now then I got referrals from people that saved money, that could show that really it made a difference, and just kept building from there. And of course, adopted the AccuWeather name. Accuracy plus weather equals AccuWeather, so we had to be the most accurate. And my whole life's been dedicated to providing the most accurate forecast, so people make better decisions, they stay safe and out of harm's way. And we saved tens of thousands of lives. In Hurricane Katrina alone, with our forecast, which was far different, far more accurate than from the National Hurricane Center or anybody else, we saved 11,000 lives. We had a dramatic forecast that got people out of New Orleans and out of harm's way. And we've been doing that our entire existence. And so we've saved companies billions and tens of billions of dollars by making better decisions. And because of superior accuracy and because cream rises to the top and people recognize it, you know, we reach over 1 billion people a day now. They depend on us to make their decisions about when to go for a jog or where to travel to and so on. And we take a lot of pride in that, but it's also an important responsibility. A tornado warning, for example, the government's tornado warning, about 8 minutes notice on average, ours 20 minutes. That extra time to prepare with a lower false alarm rate makes a big difference. And we serve thousands of factories and medical centers and locations around the country and really around the world to keep people out of harm's way. That's just one example. So a lot of resistance. And initially the government resented the fact that, you know, I was trying to make money on their data, but the data is free to everybody, of course. And but they would copy new inventions I had and give them away for free. But as Jeff Sonnenfeld, who you probably know for Yale CEO conference and so on, and he wrote to me recently, we're talking about something else. He said, Joel, you may not know it, but long before I had Federal Express or some of these other companies that competed with the government, I used to use you as an example. It created a business competing with the government and with a service that was already there. The difference is, of course, Federal Express, you know, post office charged. And so at least they were up against somebody who was charging. In my case, they gave it away for free. But I created this business and this industry, and it's not just me. I mean, I've been fortunate to have people that followed me and believed in my dream and worked for me their entire lives. both my brothers. In the last 15 months, I gave 3 retirement dinners, one to Elliot Abrams. He worked for me for 52 years. Ken Clark, 44 and a half. Jim Kander, 39. They spent their entire careers working just for me. They were all former students. And I hired them right out of college. And in fact, Elliot, I started as an undergraduate, helping me part-time. And so I've had incredible dedication. I have dozens more at AccuWeather that have worked for AccuWeather for 4 or 5 decades. It's the only job they've known. So I've been blessed and fortunate. You know, there's a lot to be said about new experiences and so on, but there's also a lot to be said about a team working together and the collaboration and the ideas you get when you have a team. It's like an offensive line on a football team. You know, when they've played together 5, 6, 7 years in a row, they know what the other one's going to do, and that's an effective offensive line. Well, I've got an offensive line that's played together for 30, 40, 50 years.
That's amazing. I thought the Dodgers, 9 years of the same infield, a record that would never be broken again. Nobody will ever beat that record as far as executives go. There's 2 things I want to touch on before I let you go. I have to, you know, right? Jack Canfield's a friend of mine. I was blessed to write a book with him, and he talks about going to 120 publishers before publishing, you know, the greatest selling book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, next to the Bible. And here you are, 24,000 and some no's trying, you know, and now here with 1.5 billion people daily that are really subscribing to that accurate data that saves lives. It's important data. But do you have any tips about how you kept a positive mindset when everybody, and by the way, I can't imagine how wonderful your wife is if you're willing to take that many no's. You probably have outkicked your coverage, I guarantee it. But what is your perspective or philosophy about taking a no?
Well, what can you learn from it? Why is it a no? You know, I believe it should be a yes. I can really help you. You're in the end, by not trying this service and believing in what I'm telling you, we're going to take more of a risk. In this case, a liability. So in the beginning, I gave 10-day trials if I needed to get in the door. But as a leader, you know, you got to be candid, you got to be authentic, make the necessary business decisions, but be fair, do the right thing, follow your passion, know your business, stay focused, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit.
I love it. Last question to me is about segmentation, because I've built many traditional brands when I ran Leigh Steinberg, and I would tell, you know, young athletes, celebrities, entertainers, patience, and then, you know, coaching so many executives now, I try to have them utilize that ferocious persistence that you have, but the allowance. And I look at the numbers of, you know, your goal to start was 100 paying customers. That's like my goal when I started building my own brand. The first year I wanted 2 ambassadors. I told my wife, look, just 2 people that will tell 2 more people every year, Dave Meltzer's the greatest. You got to watch his stuff, listen to his podcasts, his books, his TV shows. He's wonderful. But if
you're following Einstein's advice, right? Compounding is the 8th wonder of the world.
Compounding. And that's exactly what AccuWeather, you have compounded not only the viewership, the following, the ambassadorship, but even your employees and the size of your company. Everything has compounded over the years. And throughout the process, did you ever get too impatient? Was there an area as you were younger going, this isn't happening fast enough, I'm thinking about changing directions? Or were you like me, just consistent on the long play that if I do the right things, it'll eventually keep doubling into something extraordinary?
I'm eternally impatient. I'm internally impatient because we're constantly developing new products, new ideas, and they never happen fast enough. And everybody who works for me knows that, but somehow puts up with it.
That's wonderful. Well, you have achieved an enormous amount of stature in my book as an entrepreneur. I have you in my Hall of Fame for what you have built. And I think the most impressive thing is having that infield of decades. That's one of the best infield stories I've ever heard of executives. It says a lot. You know, I always tell, I really look for people that have friends when they were from kindergarten or elementary school. It says a lot about them. But someone who knows employees and overhead, to keep people with you for that long and to grow a business to such a great, amazing stature to even save lives, there could be any better achievement or legacy. And I just am proud to have you on here to share these lessons. Thank you so much, Joel, for joining me on Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.